Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown!
Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got
Another one!
Oladipo!
Another one! Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's gonna go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
Galloway finds Rob Finnessy, who fires the three, and
He hit it!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you here on this Wednesday. What is it, January 10th? Hope I'm not too far off.
Yeah, we got January 11th.
11th. Holy cow. Just flying through, man. Welcome aboard, everybody. Appreciate you. Everybody jumping on the Andy Moore Honda hotline early and often. I appreciate you guys. Of course, Andy Moore Honda, one of our great sponsors. Make sure you reach out to andymoorehonda.com for new and used vehicles, and ensure you can get a great deal on some 2022s right now. And our good friends from Endeavor Hospitality, the WOW Club. Make sure you go to the My WOW Network and sign up for the WOW Club. Start earning WOW rewards today. They are a proud member of sponsor of Indiana Athletics as well as Indiana Sports Beat Radio. So make sure you go to the WOW Club. Great places like BB's Market, where I can't wait to be back Friday and have Chef JD take care of me. But BB's is your local market, and baker, no matter where you live, and caterer. Located on South College in Bloomington, they're open every day at 6 a.m. and they can make anything you need ready to go, or to eat in. I can't wait to get back. Welcome back, everybody. Appreciate you. Dustin Schutte on assignment this week. John, the producer, with us. Another great lineup today on the tap. Bob Kravitz, the reigning Indiana Sports Writer of the Year. We look forward to congratulating and talking to him. Kyle Neddenriep from the Indy Star, and Hall of Famer Rick Bozich also joins us on the program today. How's everybody doing? Appreciate you. Indiana back on the hardwood tonight. We'll be talking about that as they travel to State College, Pennsylvania to take on Penn State. We'll see if we can get in touch with Sir Elton Hayes from CNHI Papers up there at Penn State and talk with him as well. Lots of action last night. Kevin talked about, let's see, where I just saw it. It went so fast. Michigan State beating Wisconsin at Wisconsin. I guess that happened last night. That's right. Time to watch radio. I love that. Man, I may have to steal that. Fred, that's a good one. The Easton Assassin. Appreciate everybody already on, man. Guys are jumping on. Fred, Heath from down in Danville, Kentucky. You know, that's got some relatives down that way. Five Left's on already. Kenneth as well. Kevin, Larry, man, you guys are on it and at it. Appreciate you. Michael, Philip, Shay as well. Yeah, there was a things not going in. Now, you all can jump all you want on that Kentucky bandwagon of it because it is a little funny, but it's no different than what's going on in Indiana. But there was a guy at Rupp Arena last night that had a sign that said, "Please go to Texas," and he was booted from Rupp Arena. Of course, that was in reference to John Calipari, and I don't know if John Calipari thinks that if he flirts with Texas, they'll beg him to stay. That ain't going to happen, because I think finally, after all these years of people like me screaming, he's just a used car salesman, which is what he is. And he can't out-talent people anymore. And he certainly is not going to out-coach anyone. So there's that. But Indiana has their own problems to deal with. So don't get so excited there about that, Indiana fans. Indiana's a 2-point underdog to Penn State, according to Shea. I haven't pulled up the point spread, but there you go. I appreciate that. Ross said he's glad he's not flying today. A major FAA shutdown nationwide. I don't know anything about that, but I'm glad I'm not flying either. What's up with that, John Boy?
They're redirecting tons of flights to the Louisville International Airport apparently today because of this FAA shutdown. That's why I'm aware of it.
Well, first of all, why Louisville? Louisville's not very big.
Well, it's because I know that they're not a very big travel
Other than they have UPS.
It may have something to do with the fact that they just have a very large airstrip because of the UPS taking.
Well, they do have extra long because of that. But I would think that there would be a lot of planes, or they're not shutting the UPS planes down as well.
I'm not sure about that, but there's evidently, surely there's got to be good reason if they're bringing that many flights into this city.
Well, if they're shutting them down, what the hell's going on? Yeah, that's weird. Why? Is it has to do with the cyber attack? The White House said there's no evidence of a cyber attack at this point in U.S. air shutdown. Holy cow. Well, I'm glad that's not our topic. And wow, all flights have been grounded. System outage affecting flights nationwide. The FAA has grounded all flights nationwide. The source tells NBC News that the shutdown is due to a computer system issue that is not yet confirmed how much an impact it has had on travelers. What? Do you need me to tell you that? That would be pretty impactful. I'll have to get more into that later, of course, but that's not why you're here. You can find that information out anywhere, right? Looking forward to talking to Bob Kravitz today, the newly minted Indiana Sports Writer of the Year. Looking forward to that. Congratulations to Bob. That's by the same group that named Don Fisher Sports Caster of the Year last year. And this year it's Chris Denari. We'll have him on tomorrow. So talk about having an all-star lineup, baby. We've got it. We'll talk to Rick Bozich as well. Looking forward to that. I'm sure he'll talk more about the disharmony at Kentucky. But like I said, Indiana fans, they've got their own deal to worry about. North Carolina loses Armando Bacot to an injury. I don't know how long that's going to be, but if that were to be an extended period of time, they would be in similar shape to what Indiana's in right now. Of course, I already mentioned Kentucky losing to South Carolina last night in Rupp Arena. They are now 1-3 in SEC play. Just mentioning some of the bigger names. Last night on the scoreboard, I'm trying to see any other games of note. Cabro has to be happy today. Florida beat LSU 67-56 at the Pete Maravich Assembly Center. And Pete Maravich is the baddest man to ever play as far as scoring. He is still far and away the scoring leader in NCAA history. He only played 3 years because freshmen weren't allowed to play back then, and there was no three-point shot. So keep that in mind. Anytime you ever are going to have an argument about the greatest scorer ever in college basketball history, no one will ever approach Pete Maravich. I don't care if they beat his record eventually, which in this day and age of having 7 seasons to play, I'm shocked. And that should show you again how bad that man was. You've got people that are playing in their 7th season, and you can't touch this guy. He played 3 with no three-point line. He was a bad man. Armand Franklin had a good game for Virginia actually was playing North Carolina when Armando Bacot went down. You know, I've always wondered, Indiana's missing. You talk about missing someone, that is Armand Franklin is someone that Indiana could certainly use right now with this offense to settle it down. That's a name that I think a lot of people forget that it did end up leaving. that I think, and it did surprise me a little bit that he did not wait it out since it was Mike Woodson. Now, I'm not saying he made a wrong decision. He did what was best for him, and it's working out for him. I was going to say that can't be right. Pulling up basketball, trying to pull up a basketball game from last night between those two to see how that ended up for him. Forrest says that Pete was fun to watch. Yeah, I bet he was. Shay points out Jim Boeheim said Armand Franklin was the key to Virginia's victory. Not surprising, man. He's a veteran. He's probably very comfortable. Obviously, he had some familiarity with the system that wasn't taught very well, obviously, but now he went to a place where it was taught extraordinarily well. I think Virginia won last night 65-58. It stayed close, even though they did not have Armando Bacot. North Carolina now 11-6. Virginia 12-3. They're looking to be one of the, if not the best team in the ACC. And if you're that, you're going to be probably a number one seed. A lot of season left for that. Let's see. Can Antoine Davis catch Maravich? No, I don't think so. Good question. And if there's anyone that would have had the best shot, it's him, because he has the green light. He has the green light and a three-point shot that he can nail. But no, which is crazy. It's crazy. Roger, how you doing, sir? Appreciate you jumping on the Andy Moore Honda hotline. Appreciate everybody, no matter where you're listening from. Our good friends down on the Ref 97.7. Always the right call in Evansville. Hope everyone's doing well down there. WBRO down in Marengo. Hope everybody's doing well there today as well, and looking forward to welcoming our folks from WJOB up here soon, up in the region. If you happen to live up in the region, or you listen to us, or you're in the Chicago area, it won't be long. You'll be able to listen to us on radio as well. So up there, looking forward to adding another affiliate to our network. Appreciate that. And if you live in an area where we're not on, and you'd sure like that for us to be on, call the station and let us know where it is, and we'll call them. Let's see. Today is Wednesday. We're halfway through the week. Indiana has a basketball game tonight, like I said, and a game that they are listed as an underdog. And every game has now become a must-win for Indiana. You cannot continue to lose games that you're supposed to win. Every time you do that, your debit has just doubled. Losing to Iowa, no, that was not in the cards. Losing at home to Northwestern definitely was not in the cards. You lose on the road at Penn State and go to 1-4 in the Big Ten, you're in big trouble. I mean, they're already in trouble. And don't forget tonight, the first implementation of the Toddcast. How about that? Looking forward to that. We've never done this before, and I just thought of it. KB from down in Jeffersonville, how are you doing, sir? Appreciate you. Yeah, you should give them a call there at WXVW. That would be a perfect spot for us. Kevin Bratcher. Tell them you want us on the show, on the air. What was I saying, John Boy?
Oh, you were talking about the Toddcast.
Oh, yeah. Tonight. Well, the game starts at 7. So I'm sure it'll start just a little bit right before that, and you can join in. And it's pretty much like this, like the show we're doing right now, except obviously Todd will be commenting on the game as it is live. Now, you cannot see the game on here, obviously. You'll have to watch it on your own source. We can't show the game, but you can interact with Todd and ask questions about things. He'll make comments. You can ask him about that. And I'm going to just, or whomever is going to just be making sure that to keep up with the comments, because that could be too much for Todd to do.
Break.
But looking forward to that. We've got lots more coming up on the program today, including the Indiana Sports Writer of the Year, Bob Kravitz from The Athletic. He joins us next. Brought to you by our good friends at BB's Market, a part of the Endeavor Hospitality Wow Club. Make sure you go to Endeavor Hospitality's Wow Club and join today. Start earning Wow rewards, and make sure you stop by BB's Market, where I will be this Friday, as I am each and every Friday. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Whether
I need to read
A lot of people looking forward to the Toddcast.
I know. Good idea.
Good morning, Sports Writer of the Year.
Yeah. How are you, man?
Good, doing good. How are you?
Thanks for the recognition. I appreciate it.
Jim's been giving you recognition for the past 15 minutes.
Oh, that's nice of him. That's awesome.
You feeling better this week?
Yeah, the voice is still a little hoarse. It's been over a month like this, but yeah, I feel fine. It's just the voice.
It's all the bad juju going away from the Colts now that the season's done.
That's it. Bad juju.
Mm-hmm.
Get my coffee in me and
Yeah.
oh man.
Juju Schuster.
What up? Juju Smith-Schuster.
Yeah, that's it. How are you, Jim?
Hey, brother, I'm the only person in the world that doesn't have a hyphenated name, I think.
I don't.
Well, I was going to make one up for you.
When I was at
Kravitz.
Smith Kravitz. When I was at Sports Illustrated, they wanted me to change my name to R. Lawrence Kravitz for my byline. I was like, what in the fuck?
R. Lawrence of Arabia.
They think Bob was too unprofessional?
I think so. I think they wanted me to sound like I was another one of their Harvard guys, one of their Ivy League dudes.
Well, what's like Robert is pretty. What about Robert?
Yeah. No, I said Bob. It's just freaking Bob.
Yeah, it's like me. James is my real name.
Right.
Jimothy.
Coyle Schuster.
And I'm not.
Where's
Jonathan.
Dustin today?
John.
He's on assignment this week.
There we go.
Oh, okay.
All right, what we got here? 30-ish seconds left. 35.
Pardon.
No, you're good.
We're up here.
We are, sort of. We're off the air radio waves.
Oh, yeah. I shouldn't have dropped an F-bomb, huh?
Oh,
Hey.
YouTube. It's okay with the YouTube crowd.
Hey, Bob,
Okay.
we're adding another radio station, by the way. We're for the region and Chicago.
Oh, good for you, man.
That's
Congratulations.
Thank you. But Southern Charm,
Sorry.
Southern Stone Restaurant is part of Endeavor Hospitality's Wow Club.
This segment is brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you here on this Wednesday, January 11. And we couldn't be happier to have our good friend Bob Kravitz with us, who is now the reigning Indiana Sports Writer of the Year. Congratulations, sir.
Well, thank you, man. I really appreciate that. I have no idea how that happened, but it happened.
Well, I wonder if it had anything to do with you losing your voice. They're like, man, we love him this way.
Exactly. Well, my wife certainly did.
Yeah.
She's like, damn, your voice is starting to come back. This stinks.
Oh, well, congratulations again. What is that? Down in North Carolina.
Yeah. It's
right?
in Winston-Salem. So I'll probably go out there this summer for the awards. I've won it twice previously, and I wasn't able to get out there, but I think I'm going to do it this year.
Well, you can go out there with Chris Denari because he's the sports caster of the year.
Chris Denari is the sportscaster of the year. I voted for him. Very well deserved. I'm shocked that that's his first victory because he's a pro's pro.
Absolutely, both of you are. And we're both appreciative to have both you guys on. Your beat mainly here of late has been the Colts, and man, that has been a well, it's been like covering Indiana basketball. To be honest with you, it's not been fun, and you don't know where they're headed, and where they're heading after this season. There's going to be tons of questions that have to be answered, and I did see they picked up a lineman from the Cowboys, so they're trying to do some things. But will Chris Ballard remain in his role? There's just a lot of questions for that organization.
Well, Ballard, I think pretty clearly is going to remain where he's at unless they hire a coach who wants, like a Harbaugh, who wants his own guy in there. So then I think things could be changing there. But right now it looks very much like Chris Ballard will be the guy moving forward. And, you know, he was good yesterday. I got to tell you, he was really good yesterday. He fell on his sword and said, I failed the fans. I failed everybody. As opposed to Jeff Saturday, who made just a lot of excuses for why he went 1-7. So I thought that Ballard was on point.
You know, I don't think Saturday owes anybody anything. If I was him, I'd say, hey, who said I could coach?
Yeah, exactly.
Who said I could coach? I didn't say I could coach. So they asked me to do it. I did it. You should thank me because you're going to get a hell of a draft pick because of what I did.
Yeah, I mean, look, if the idea was to tank, they did a hell of a job. I mean, I
firmly believe it, Bob, that they tanked without tanking by doing this. It's a clear way to do it without looking like you're trying to do it.
I thought that was the case initially, but Jim Irsay looks at himself as like a Rooney or a Mara, one of the old school owners. I don't think that Jim would mess with the competitive integrity of the game. I just, knowing him as long as I have, I think he just made a lot of really stupid emotional decisions in the last year and a half that have conspired to be a tank. But I don't think that was the goal. I don't think that he had that goal in mind, but damn, it worked out well. You know, they got the 4th pick. They may move up to number 1 if they fall in love with somebody like a Bryce Young. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be a really intriguing couple of weeks / months.
Tanks, so it's like a tanks but no tanks kind of a thing.
Tanks but no tanks, exactly. You amuse yourself.
I do, man. And it's only with you because I know that you can grab it and grab that bull and ride it, and so yes,
and then throw it right back in your face.
Exactly. So the 4th pick, and if they move up, whatever they do, this pick is crucial. How important in the lineage of picks going back to this goes back to this has got to be almost as important or as important as when they got Andrew Luck.
Well, it's different because everybody's saying like go up and get number 1, and my thing is there's no Andrew Luck or Peyton Manning at the top of the draft. You know, you can make the case that any one of 2 or 3 guys, Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, or even Will Levis, deserves to be the number one guy.
Can't say Will Levis. He comes from Kentucky.
That's true. But I don't, unless they totally fall in love with somebody, I don't see them moving up, because if they stay at 4, unless somebody trades out and moves up beyond them, I mean, I think in many ways they're going to have to play defense here, because you've got to think that Carolina is going to move up and get themselves a quarterback, and that would leave them with the 3rd option. So if they see somebody they really like, then by God, make the trade. You've got some talent, move some guys along.
What are your expectations? Which is almost akin to asking you to make a prediction, which I know is a guess, but from what you've seen, what's your best guess?
I think they're going to try and move up. I think that Bryce Young is probably the guy. I say that having seen him play maybe 3 times. I'm very impressed by him, but here's the thing. He's 5'11". He's undersized weight-wise. And if you look at the history of NFL quarterbacks, very few sub-6 footers really make it in the league. I mean, Drew Brees is obviously the patron saint of small guys, but there's not a lot of guys at that height who really do well in the NFL. So, it might be Stroud. It might even be Levis. I'm telling you, I know we're not allowed to say his name because of the Kentucky thing, but Levis is going to blow people away in the combine. I guarantee you, because he's got an arm.
And I didn't see him play this year. Just didn't catch a lot of SEC games, especially low-level SEC games. But these guys can come from anywhere. And who do you, of the ones that you've seen, who is your favorite? Who do you like?
Well, I was really impressed with Stroud in the CFP. But, he did a lot of things in that game that he hasn't done previously. Like, he really ran. He used his legs a lot in that game and was very, very impressive. But that's not something he does on a regular basis. But I think that that's something they need to coach him up about and make him use those legs. I mean, he's a little like Michael Penix in the sense that he can run, but he's reluctant to do so. But I think if they could get him feeling like he can use his legs, I think he could be a very effective quarterback.
Speaking of which, how about Michael Penix? He's going to be back. He's coming back to college for another year. And I think that's mainly to show NFL scouts that, hey, dude, I can stay healthy.
That's the big thing.
You protect me and I can stay healthy, but not only can I stay healthy, I can throw for a crap ton of yards, which he did last year. He threw for over 3,000 yards. He lit it up. There's a Jake Plummer is coming back from, I forget, Oregon, where he went from. He went from Purdue to Oregon, but in the single season out there, he's transferring to Louisville back to Jeff Brom. He threw for almost as many yards, a little over 3,000. I think he threw for like 21 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. So there's going to be some quarterbacks that are under the radar maybe, and especially one that is getting tutored by Jeff Brom. Their names are going to be under the radar. So
there's another guy to keep in mind. If the Colts decide not to use their 4th pick on a quarterback, which I suspect they will, but if they, let's say, decide to trade down, which I think would cause a riot in the city of Indianapolis. But Anthony Richardson from Florida probably has the most raw talent of any of the quarterbacks we've mentioned. The problem is he's not ready, and he's a year, maybe 2 years away. And so they would need a bridge quarterback, whether that's, God help us, Matt Ryan or somebody else. But I think this organization has waited too long. I don't think they should overthink this. Just go get the best guy at either 1 if you trade up or number 4, and just hope like hell that Carolina doesn't step in and screw up all the plans. That's why I'm thinking that trading up for number 1 might be the way to go.
We'll certainly look forward to see how that goes, and wish them the best, because it was not fun this year.
It was not fun.
But the fans did not waver, just much like the fans of IU basketball, the game I was at just the other day that they lost to Northwestern at home. The place was packed. I mean, it was packed. And part of that was because the students are not here, and people who do not normally get an opportunity to go to Simon Scott Assembly Hall had that chance, and they filled it up. Unfortunately, they were gravely disappointed by a team that is underperforming more and more with each game. Mike Woodson's, I can't say that his seat's getting warm, because that's not my call, but from a fan's perspective, I can tell that they're not happy, as with good reason. The perception to look at this team is one that is trending down. And yes, I know that they've got some injuries with Xavier Johnson and Race Thompson, but they were trending down or at best treading water before that. So there's just no improvement. There's no, it's the same thing.
Well, look, one of the reasons why I was not all that bullish on this team is that, and I don't know if this statistic is totally accurate, but it's close. They had 92% of their scoring from last year coming back this year. Now, that was a team that finished 9th in the Big Ten. So what you're saying is we got all the same guys pretty much, and we're going to hope that the freshmen, excuse my voice again, that the freshmen are going to be dynamic. And Hood Schifino has been really good. But the other guys are freshmen. I mean, they're finding their way.
They're playing like freshmen.
They're playing like freshmen. So I was not as bullish. I jumped the gun on the North Carolina game. I thought, wow, this team really gets it. But boy, was I wrong.
Well, I'll give you one thing, though. You pointed out, and it's stuck in my mind all year. There's no one that continued to point out, hey, this is a team that has not finished higher than 9th in 6 years.
Right.
And it's the same team. And that's a conversation that you had. And so is something that I haven't forgotten, that I keep bringing up. And they're going to be lucky to finish 9th right now.
Right.
I don't see 5 teams worse than they are, or maybe 4, but I don't see 5 teams worse than they are. They're not playing.
Including Northwestern, who's 3-1 in the Big Ten or something like that. So
they're 12 or 13-3, 12-3, whatever they are.
Yeah, Collins got them playing. Yeah, it's really disappointing, and I think that we expected a hell of a lot more. We're not getting it, and I keep waiting for Jordan Geronimo to grow into the kind of player that we saw against Wyoming, and some of the freshmen, waiting for them to come along. Besides Hood Schifino, Hood Schifino is a player, man. He's going to be dynamic.
Oh, he's going to be.
But you talked about the injuries. I mean, they got lit up by Kansas and Arizona when they had a full complement of players. So I think that was
they got lit up by Rutgers. They didn't have Jalen Hood Schifino.
Right. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
It just shows, though, the talk was about depth with this team. Well, every time that they've had one, you lose Jalen Hood Schifino, boom, they go down.
Right.
They lose one single part and they've gone down. That's not what depth is. Depth is the opposite of that. Eric says that he thinks we're being a little critical. 4 games into the conference season already, 16 games to go yet. Take a breath. It's not the 4 games. It's the composite of everything that I've seen, Eric. It's to watch this team be just wherever they were. And I think the North Carolina game gave us, and Xavier was a solid win because they won on the road. I think maybe they were fortunate to catch them early enough. But then the North Carolina game, they caught North Carolina at the end of a 4-game losing streak when they were just in a tailspin.
They had just come back from, I think, Vegas or Maui or someplace. I don't remember. And they had played like a quadruple overtime game, something like that. So, yeah, they did catch Carolina at a bad time. And I should have I should have tempered my enthusiasm in my column that night, but I didn't. I just thought, wow, this team is going to be special, and we have seen nothing. And it makes you think about Mike Woodson. What has he done?
Exactly. No, Kenneth, X, I don't think X was out against Arizona, was he?
I'm sorry, say again.
I'm reading this comment. I can't remember if
no,
he was
Jalen. I thought he played against Arizona.
Yeah,
I thought they had a full complement. Yeah,
but regardless, it's not one thing. It's not one game. It's the overall look of this team, guys, and it's not just us saying this. I mean, you've heard Don Fisher come on here and repeatedly say that this team does not have the toughness, does not have the fight. And
when you're up 21 damn points on a bad Iowa team and you can't put them away, that's a really bad sign. And I hope things turn around. I mean, college basketball is better when Indiana is good, but Indiana hasn't been worth the crap for a long, long time.
I agree. And I've been wondering if there's just too much NBA style coaching going on with his team. It's not just the fact that Woody was in the NBA for so long. If you look at his entourage is he's got about 4 advisors that are all NBA type guys. They're not college coaches. And I don't think that you watch Indiana's offense. It looks more like a pro style, which is
matchups.
Great if you've got 4 guys that are professional players, but you don't have that. You don't even have 5 good college players out there right now because of injuries. So
what concerns me the most, Jim, is the defense. I mean, Rutgers and I mean Northwestern just eviscerated them. I mean, I don't know what their what the stat was, but I saw a bunch of numbers, points per possession. They were terrible. And that's what concerns me the most, because that's about effort and being tied together. And that's something that Woody was able to accomplish last year. Was they had the best defensive team in the Big Ten and one of the best in the country. So that to me is even more concerning than the way they're playing offensively.
That is the biggest concern to me, because defense is just sheer effort. It's
mindset.
Effort. It's coaching, effort, and what you give. And a team that had that last year that has only slightly gotten better with talent wise, but the drop off in defense has been horrific. And
terrible.
When we ask questions, not really giving answers other than, Race and Xavier on the bench. That's not the reason,
weak.
man.
That's weak, man.
I think that he'd like to have that one back. I'm pretty sure.
I think so too.
But that's not the reason. They were just watching the game the other night. I'm sitting there watching guys get beat left and right. I mean, the help defense is not there. I'm like, guys, I understand the guys are going to get beat because that's just natural. You're either hedging or whatever, but there's no help defense. It's like, what are they doing? It still seems like they're kind of lost in preseason, learning their roles yet. And it looks like defense under Archie Miller again, to be honest with you.
Oh, did you have to bring up that name?
Man, that's what it reminds me of. And that's
it.
Terrible.
Really does. It really does. They do not look connected at all. I mean, they're not stopping the ball. They're not keeping the guy in front of them. And then when the defense breaks down, the help defense is not good. So it's been frustrating as hell to watch. I covered the football game on Sunday, and I went home and watched the tape of the IU game, and I was really stunned by the defensive lapses.
Yeah, it's how nice would it be to have Armand Franklin on this team?
He'd help. He would certainly help.
Yeah, I talked about that earlier. What's up next for you, man?
Well, actually, I just was told 2 seconds ago that my Tyrese Halliburton 3,000 word feature is going Thursday, which would be tomorrow morning. So I hope you'll look at that. And I'm writing something about the Colts situation that's also going tomorrow. So check it out on The Athletic.
You've got it all, and make sure you do, because he is the sports writer of the year for a reason. Bob Kravitz from The Athletic. We love him. Can't live without him. Have a good one, brother.
All right, buddy. Take care of yourself.
You bet. Bob Kravitz joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our good friends from Endeavor Hospitality Wow Club. And Go Team, make sure you go to the Endeavor Hospitality Wow Club and sign up. Start earning Wow rewards today for great things like Go Team. Always on the go, whether it's you, your kids, or the team. It's hard to find fresh, tasty food that's convenient to eat on the fly. Go Team was created for the go-getters just like you. Just go to GoTeamBites.com or pick them up at BB's Market. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Golfers, here's the deal. He always stays through the breaks, and it always makes me wonder that either he's waiting on something or
you'll have about 10 minutes here before Mr. Neddenriep. Mr. Neddenriep.
Do we have any clips of any kind?
They haven't done anything since.
Well, I know, but I
played
mean,
clips.
I don't know. We can always find other stuff. So I need to start doing. Oh, I can't believe I didn't hear. Oh, wait a minute. I didn't hear back from Elton. I don't think. No, I didn't.
Elton.
So Elton John. God, I wish we could play regular music.
I know.
Dude, I've got to get that Roadcaster and start using it myself. I'm just always thinking of stuff like when I say something like I can hit a quick clip, but I can't believe they haven't started training y'all on that.
It's more so for the fact that only, like, I don't know who uses it. Only certain people use the Roadcasters, and it's not because they're like too advanced. It's just that it's more like they're kind of the cheaper version actually of what we use. Because I don't know if you've seen our new boards, but I initially thought we were going to be using Roadcasters because that's what somebody else was saying, but obviously they didn't know what they were talking about. We do have a couple of rooms with Roadcasters, but I think they're only used for the music stations, if I'm not mistaken. All right, 30 seconds. We're going to pull this back in.
Wow Club is located next door to Southern Stone Restaurant on Patterson and Rogers. It's one of the most popular gathering spots in Bloomington. Whether you're out on a date with your spouse, friends, or coworkers, Feast Market and Cellar offers an extensive wine selection with a sommelier on staff to help you with your selections. Feast also provides a wide variety of cheeses, gourmet sandwiches, entrees, a coffee bar, bread, pastries, all made fresh and mouthwatering. Stop by Feast Market and Cellar today.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indie Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you here on this Wednesday. It's January 11. I understand the weather is going to be quite spectacular, at least down in the southern part of the state. Someone from Evansville mentioned it's going to be 50, 60 degrees down there today. It's going to be a high of 52 in Bloomington, so you guys are lucky. 60 degrees. especially coming off of that once in a 2.5 generation cold we had not too long ago. Man, I hope that's the end of the cold for the year. That cold like that, at least. Although we do have some rain heading our way. But looking at the, hey man, looking out here at the advanced, it doesn't look too bad. 50, Friday. A little drop down, but that's okay. It's going to high of 36 on Friday, high of 41 on Saturday, and then it starts rising back up to the 50s. Hey man, I'll deal with that. I'll take a 30-degree day out of 7 during the winter. I will certainly take that. How's everybody doing? Looking forward to having Kyle Neddenriep on next and Rick Bozich after that. Just finished up with Bob Kravitz. Looking at the Ken Palm, Indiana basketball, currently 25th, I believe they are 21st in adjusted offense, but they're 46th in adjusted defense. And that has been, without question, the issue for this team, healthy or otherwise. And that's why people like Bob were smart enough to say, look, this is the same team that has not finished higher than 9th in 6 years for the most part. And as he pointed out, 92% of the scoring returned. The scoring's not a problem. They're scoring better this year than they did last year. They're a much better offensive team this year than they were last year. If they had last year's defense right now, this is potentially a top 10 team. They have that kind of talent. No one's saying that they don't, but they are not using it, period. They're not playing well. And no, I don't see someone asked Eric, I think, if being too harsh this early. No, I call what I see now live. I'm not saying 6 games from now. Well, 6 games from now, we'll talk about 6 games from now. But the here and the now, they're not playing well. They're on a downward trend. They don't seem locked in, focused. Yeah, I'm done with the halftime 3-point shoot around. No way. If I was coaching, get your ass in the locker room if you're done. If you're done warming up, get your ass in the locker room and get focused. Get your mind right. Why are you spending the last 5 or 10 minutes goofing off that close to the game? Get locked in until you are playing better, because something isn't working. So change something else. How about the screwing around? Get rid of it. I mean, act like you care. Act like that it matters that you just lost at home to Northwestern, that you're currently 1-3 in the Big Ten, and as a preseason Big Ten favorite, you're about to go 1-4, which would put you next to last in the conference. And how embarrassing is it going to be for Indiana to finish not only worse than 9th, but I'm talking in the last 2 or 3 spots of the conference with the talent they have. And if you don't think that that's possible, then you have not been watching. Someone mentioned earlier that may not have, or if we're paying attention, Kenneth says, Iowa just beat Rutgers at Rutgers. I really wonder if anyone actually pays attention to what is actually happening around the country in the league. That has nothing to do with Indiana. Well, that should make you feel worse as an Indiana fan. You lost to a team that was 0-3 that you shouldn't have lost to. You had a 20-point lead on, who then goes on the road and beats a team who punked you. So you're not at either of their levels. So that puts Indiana below Iowa. Notwithstanding the fact that they lost to them. So, yeah, I pay attention. And that's why the comments about Indiana right now are what they are. because that is what is being seen, because that's what's being shown. Doesn't mean it can't change, but it has not changed, and it has not been anything other than that up till now. And that's up to them to do that. I'm really surprised at the lack of. I'm surprised that they still do the half court jacking around thing. Just, I don't think you should even have to be told that. I think that it should be, especially someone who's in a position of, say, tracing a race, which Race is probably not doing it now. If he is, that's okay because he's hurt. But when he wasn't, why are those two guys out jacking around shooting half court shots? How about you jack around and shoot 12-foot shots? You want to end your warm-up session by trying to hit a half-court shot. How about working on a 12-footer? I'm not trying to be a jerk, but I'm being serious, practical. Get your mind right. I don't care if it's down to the last second. Stand there and shoot 12-footers until you have to go inside. Show me that you're serious about the game you're about to start playing, that you're locked in. That's just again, if you haven't listened to this show long, then maybe you don't realize this is not a fan show. I don't see things as a fan. I am going to tell you what I think, what I see, and I'm going to ask a lot of questions to people that come on that I have respect for, whether it's a coach, a player, a national media person. And you don't need me telling you these things. But it's not just me. I'm not spouting off about this. Like I said, you've heard Don Fisher come on and say this multiple times this season. You don't have to believe me, but coming from Don, he's watched Indiana basketball for 50 years. So anybody that does not acknowledge the things that are being said, you're being a great fan, and that's okay for you. That's okay, but it's not reality. They're going to have to make some serious changes, period. Mike Woodson has to make some serious changes. The play on the floor has been matched by the coaching from the sideline, if we're being honest. You know, the changes that happen are only happening after they've been forced. Doug wants to go fishing. Not a bad idea. Kevin says coaches get players ready to play and didn't see that in the North. No. Northwestern looked ready. Northwestern looks very smooth running their offense. Northwestern, with those great athletes that they are known for having, blew by Indiana, beat them in every which way. And I don't understand how a team that is much more athletic got beat so badly defensively. It's just amazing to me. At some point, pride has to come in, right? But Larry says, agreed, but lineup matters when everything you worked on for months is out the window. That said, the lack of fight in defensive is very troubling. Again, I'm not saying that losing Xavier and Race does not hurt, but this stuff was happening before they went out, guys. This stuff was happening before they were hurt. And this is a team that was labeled with great depth. Well, they lost Jalen Hood-Schifino for a couple games and struggled. They lose Xavier. Well, they were already struggling, but then Xavier, then Race. That has nothing to do with the effort or lack thereof that we've seen, guys. And that's what I'm saying. It is what it is, and it's up to them to change it. And that's, how do you coach attitude? Well, I think it starts at the top, personally. And I'm not saying that you need a coach like Bob Knight. For one, there are no coaches like Bob Knight. Bob Knight was one of the most intelligent coaches to ever coach the game, but on the other side, he had his issues. If you could get one like that doesn't have those issues, yeah, but the toughness, yeah, that comes from the top down. I don't think that if you have a coach that is not behind being tough, that is not behind having a little bit of attitude, then your team is going to be like that. I think that they're a direct reflection. I think that teams are a reflection of their coach to a degree of the coach's attitude. I think it starts there and works its way down. And I don't think that I think Woody has been in the NBA, was in the NBA for a long time, and those players don't need motivating. They do it themselves. They if they get beat, they're going to be embarrassed, and they're going to motivate themselves. I'm not saying that you don't need some motivation sometimes, but you have pro players, man. You don't have to do that. These are not pro players. Like I said earlier, you don't even have 5 solid ones right now. So we got to take a break. That's part of the soap. That's enough of the soapbox. Coming up next, Kyle Neddenriep from Indy Star will catch up what's going on in and around Indiana. And then Rick Bozich will join us later on. We'll talk more Indiana basketball as well as a few other things. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Andy Moore. Yeah, I believe that. Oh, the fans take it way more seriously than the players do today. I honestly believe that.
No, I do too. Yeah.
Not all players, but
Dude, I used to be, it was probably in high school where I was my most crazy fanatically, which is probably when you should be. But after that, it's like I think it was the year that they didn't win the Big Ten outright with Tom Crean. They had to share it. I got super pissed off about something, and I just came to the realization that it ain't worth it. I'm like, these are college kids, and they're not ever going to live up to your expectations because they're not professional players. It's just the way that it is. Yep. Maybe once in a blue moon they will, but it's not worth investing all of your emotion into it, in my opinion. You can be healthy with it, but don't let it ruin your life. It's stupid. I texted Kyle 30 minutes ago. I'll just let him know we're ready for him in case because usually he's one of the few people that I typically let know that we're ready. Maybe he relies on me to say that.
Some good comments on here, man.
Does it surprise you that he won't use CJ Gunn or Caleb Banks at all?
He does use CJ Gunn.
He hasn't used Caleb Banks.
Yeah.
And maybe he's just not ready yet.
Yeah, I don't know. How's Kyle Neddenriep doing?
Good. How you doing, guys?
Oh, just lovely. Enjoying the friendly banter of IU fans.
Yeah. Getting toxic again?
Yes, sir. But
not as toxic as UK. My gosh. Did you see the photo of the fan who brought a poster that says, "Please go to Texas," and they kicked him out of Rupp Arena last night?
I did not. Oh, wow. Yikes.
Did it say Calipari go to Texas or just please go to Texas?
Just said please go to Texas on it.
See, I would have said, why are you kicking me out?
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Lifting to us and enjoy healthy eating with stocked meals in your fridge. Order online today at thefreshfork.com. Fresh Fork is a proud partner of WOW Network. This segment is brought to you by Feast Market and Cellar. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you here on this Wednesday. Brought to you by our good friends from Feast Market and Cellar, of course, a wonderful part of the WOW Club and WOW Network. Feast located right next door to Southern Stone at Patterson and Rogers, with an exceptional lineup of wines, some great wines, as well as a sommelier on staff and some great food as well. Make sure you stop by Feast Market and Cellar today, a proud partner of Endeavor Hospitality's WOW Network. Joined now by Cal Neddenriep at Indy Star. How are you, sir?
Hey, good, Jim. How are you doing?
Cannot complain. I hope everything is off to a good new year for you. I know it didn't really slow down for you because during Christmas time, there's daggone tournaments happening, and then as soon as that's over, it gets right back to regular season stuff.
Yeah, now we got the Marion County tournament, so that's always a week full of activity. I always really enjoy that time of year, and then the city's next week. So, kind of that, grind. We're covering a lot of stuff around here right now, but, was able to get out and see Brownstown Central on Jennings County play on Friday. That was a great crowd and fun game. And then came back here and watched Carmel and Westfield Saturday. So trying to see some different teams and had a chance to see Jack Benner. Unfortunately, he kind of got injured at the very beginning of that game, set the all-time career scoring record in that game, but was a little bit compromised. But I was really impressed with Jennings County. They actually lost their first game Saturday to Center Grove, which is a really good team, by 2 points. But down around those parts, I know you're familiar with. I think they're a team that could potentially win a sectional, which they haven't done. I think it's 2005 or right around there. So, I don't know that they will. I mean, they've still got to beat probably New Albany, Jeffersonville, some of the Floyd Central. They've got some decent teams down there to try to beat, but it's always fun to see some different teams have a chance to win.
Floyd lost to Corden over not too long ago, so they're not decent this year.
You know how sectional goes, though. It's always it's sometimes when those rivalry games, you don't know. I know I've been in that position before too, where it's like, well, you think this is going to happen, and then it doesn't. So, but I was really impressed with them. Regardless, they really shoot the ball from the 3-point line really well. They've got almost anyone on the court can do it. So in this day and age, that is a great quality to have as a team.
Yeah, I was surprised to see them lose that game, and it was a little sad with Benner setting that mark in that game to lose that. But I'm sure he'll take the record. They'll win another game, and he'll forget about losing that one.
Well, and he's got he's got another year and a half, so it's pretty incredible.
Oh, wow.
That record has stood since 1970, I want to say. I'd have to go back and read the story. I think it was 70,
wow.
though. So that record has stood, for what, 53, 53 years, I guess that would be. So that's pretty incredible. And he's got a lot of time left to, he'll go well over 2,000 points on his career. So, he's really, but even beyond his scoring, I kind of talked with him after the game. He's like his passing and his sort of the things that he sees before other people do. That's really a cool knack that he has, even beyond his shooting, in which he does really well in his scoring. But he's just a really good offensive player, and I know the knock on him was like, is he going to be quick enough? Is he going to be, at the Big Ten level to defend who he has to defend? And I don't know the answer to that necessarily, but his knack for offense is just really unique. So fun to see him play. I know it didn't go, like they hoped to in that game, but their point guard was out, so he played more of even a point guard role, which is part of the reason he didn't score as much. But yeah, he's really good. I mean, like we've talked about before, I mean, Matt Painter just continues to get these guys who he jumps on them early enough, and I think develops relationships with them, and then he gets a good relationship going, and that means a lot in recruiting. So, we've seen that with Miles Colvin, who's going there, and guys in the past, like Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer, who are there now. And, so it's just, he's done a really good job sort of laying the groundwork with some of these in-state guys recently.
Yeah. Jack Benner, Xavier Booker, Flory Badunga. Two of those guys are committed, obviously. Booker going to Michigan State, Benner to Purdue, Badunga unknown. But that's pretty much the class of the 24 class, right?
Booker's actually 23.
23.
But yeah, Cannon Catchings is another one, though, 24, who I think will be, and he's going to Purdue as well. And he has been lighting it up for Brownsburg here in the last several weeks. He had 39 against Kokomo. He had 30 last week. They won the Hendricks County tournament. He had 30. So, he's been really good here lately as well. And if you watch him, and I don't think people at this point probably realize how good he really is either. I think he's a pro, eventually. So, he's Tamika Catchings is his his aunt. So, he's her nephew. He's really, he's got a lot of ability and starting to really produce like it too. So, but yeah, those 24 guys, I think Badunga, Catchings, Benter, those guys will be. I know people have kind of been down on that class as a whole, but those three guys, man, they're all really good players.
Yeah, and while Matt Painter's doing a hell of a job pulling these guys in from in-state and but more importantly, getting production out of them, like Fletcher Lawyer and Braden Smith now, a pair of freshmen that are starting. But when you have Catchings and Benter coming in, they're going to start running out of room because I look at Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer, 4-year guys. And so they're not going anywhere. So there's only going to be so much room there. And I kind of wonder about that. But with Indiana's play, they're not doing themselves any favors right now recruiting wise for in-state recruits, it doesn't seem, because Purdue is just continuing to pull those guys in.
Yeah, and it's all individual, and I agree. I do wonder about that too. You may have to ask for a red shirt here and there, but you do, Catchings and Benner still have another year of high school, so you have some space with those guys. But I do wonder about Colvin. What will they do with him next year? Maybe he'll play his way into a role anyway. I don't know that for sure, but that's going to be a small class to bring in, but at least at this point. But yeah, it's funny. Like, I don't know sometimes how much recruits are really paying attention to what is happening in a season as far as like wins and losses. There's a lot of times I don't know that necessarily matters a whole lot because they're looking at their own situation. Now, what does matter is coaching stability, which I don't think is an issue at this point. I don't know that, I'm just saying I at this point, I don't think that's an issue for IU. But they're going to be looking at their own, how do I fit into this system? What's my relationship like with the head coach and assistant coaches? I don't think they're living and dying with every loss like fans are necessarily. So I think that sometimes you have to kind of separate the two to a certain extent. And obviously winning helps. I'm not saying that at all, but I think a lot of it's just my individual situation. How do I fit into this team, and how well do I get along with this coach, and what opportunities am I going to have to play at this college? So I think that sometimes matters more than the championships or the record necessarily.
And I wonder, with Purdue being basically 90% Indiana roster, does that put more pressure on Matt Painter to win or less because he has so many of those guys and they're happy to be playing at a high level? Win to do something, to go, nationally. They winning a Big Ten title is great, but doing something nationally is something that they've never really done. They've only been to 2 Final Fours in the school's history and haven't been to one since 1980. Is there more pressure on him, I wonder, getting these recruits?
That's a funny question. I actually had this conversation, not that exact question, but yesterday with someone who is a Purdue fan. And, we're kind of talking about how, at some point you have to probably break through, which means to me, breaking through would be making a Final Four, because of the team that they have now and the talent they have now and the success they've had. I think fans are really looking for that at this point. And, and that's hard. It's super hard to do. And it's a roll of the dice anytime you get into a Sweet 16 game or even a second round game or whatever. I mean, it's hard. It's super hard. You run into really good teams, but at this point, I think anything less than that is almost like, now I'm not saying, you go to the Sweet 16 or Elite 8 and you lose in a tough game. I mean, I don't think people will be calling for Painter to be fired or whatever. But I do think at some point, you need that breakthrough season or tournament, and that doesn't speak to what kind of coach Painter is. I think he's a great coach regardless of that, but you probably do need that at some point. But I've lived here long enough, and this too. Anytime you have if you're Purdue or Indiana or Butler even, and have a roster full of in-state guys and you're good, fans are absolutely going to love, they're going to love it. I mean, and that's kind of the position Purdue's in right now, and people just, for whatever reason, I get it. I mean, I think most fan bases would probably feel that way, but I think Indiana's especially, because of the pride in basketball in the state, all the way down, high school level, even below. I mean, there's a lot of pride in it, which I think is cool. And I think, so if you can fill your roster full of those guys who play a style that you like and you think kind of represent what you think your school should be, there's a lot of love for that. And I think that's what Purdue's at right now. But I do think on the back end of that, you probably do need to, fulfill the promise of, your ranking and have that tournament success. And like I said, I would take what he's done over the last several years, and take that every year. And it's a roll of the dice in the tournament. It really is. I mean, it's a one game scenario, and a lot of times in matchups you may not, and they've run into that situation before, matchups that don't favor you. And so we'll see. I don't, I think, he's obviously doing a great job in getting the guys, and they're winning with in-state guys. So that's the bottom line. And that, to me, that's all that really, if you win, no one's going to care where the kids come from. But if you win and you have the in-state guys, people really love that.
Absolutely. I mean, Indiana, because of their history, because whether Purdue fans want to acknowledge it or not, they are the state team. And if Indiana is just like a dry forest waiting for a spark, the minute that spark comes, Indiana's program catches fire like a forest fire in California, and the fans come out of the woodwork. That's the one thing they have over Purdue. But they need that spark. Because we've seen it just in glimpses, and man, the Indiana fan base is ready to explode, but that also causes the opposite, just like you're getting at Kentucky right now.
Yeah.
And which I'm sure a lot of people never thought they'd see that, which I'm not surprised at all. Winning, if you're not winning, no one cares. It's what have you done for me lately? And they're in a position to do that. I don't care what the coach is, whether it's John Calipari, Mike Woodson, Matt Painter, doesn't matter. They're being paid to win. And if that's not happening, that there's reason to be upset. Yeah.
And it's like, I think there's only a few places that are probably like that. IU, Kentucky, I mean, North Carolina is probably that way. You could name off some others, but, where it feels like, and if you haven't had success, and it's nothing against the current coaching staff, but you go back and it's like, well, you haven't had success with this coach and you didn't do what you thought you would do with this coach. So now it all kind of adds up and adds to the frustration of the fan base. And then it's almost unfair to the current players and current coaches, but all this frustration over time kind of spills out a lot of times, and it turns it into and with social media being what it is. And I was looking at, I was covering a Marion County game last night, scrolling through Twitter, and I saw something, where players had responded to some tweet or Instagram, I'm not sure what, but it's pretty harshly. And you want them to live in a bubble where they're not seeing that stuff, but it's impossible in this day and age. So, that adds to it too. And I'm sure they probably think like, well, everyone's out to get us, so, which isn't true. There's a lot of people who are good fans who are quiet, and probably the vast majority are that way, but you let the vocal minority kind of get in your head, and that can be problematic, I think, and lead to some negativity, amongst the players. So, you hate to see that, but there is a level of like, just frustration over time that I think often bubbles over. And I think we're kind of seeing that again right now.
Absolutely. Kyle, what's up next for you, sir?
I got the Marion County tournament. Like I said, this week I had a story run on DeJohn Craig from Lawrence Central this morning. He lost his dad in June. He tried to give him CPR, and he did. And really kind of a touching story on a kid who I think will be a Division I guard. Really good player, super kid, has a great story. So I encourage people to check that out this morning or whenever, but it ran this morning. So, that came out. And then, some other stuff coming from the IHSAA. Had a story today on the tournament next year getting moved back a week because of the NCAA, and the state wrestling still kind of in limbo because of the NBA All-Star game. But a lot of Marion County this week. And then, like I said, city tournament next week, and some other stories you got coming on the way.
Appreciate you. Make sure you give him a follow at Kyle Neddenriep and be a subscriber to the Indy Star. Keep local papers alive. And, buddy, I appreciate you. Look forward to it again next week.
Thanks, Jim.
You bet. Kyle Neddenriep from Indy Star joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat. Couldn't be happier. Brought to you by our Endeavor Hospitality's Wild Club and Metalworks Brewing Company. The combination of a passion for beer, food, and a combination for metal art alongside a desire to be actively involved in the community. Located just off the square in Bloomington in the former Function Brewing Company. Make sure you stop by and visit Metalworks Brewing Company or enjoy them at any of the Endeavor Hospitality restaurants. We're back with Rick Bozich after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're looking for a home... Oh, hello, Rick.
Good morning.
The big three.
I'm going to turn this humidifier off here. Hold on.
Yeah.
Sorry. There, that's better.
Big three.
How are you?
I'm great, man. Just in watching this
tailspin,
three-headed monster crashing to the ground. Oh,
did you watch that Kentucky game last night?
I did not see that, but it sounded.
What do you think of them kicking the fan out, Rick?
I think you just tell them to take the sign down. I don't think you kick them out of the building. You draw more attention to it that way.
Oh, that's all everybody's talking about today. If you ask him to take it down, then nothing mentioned about it.
Right. You kind of subtly go over there during a timeout or something and say, please don't put that sign up anymore.
You know what? I wonder, how is this flight outage affecting games? I guess it'll only affect them tomorrow, but
it'll affect teams getting home tonight.
Oh, there's that.
Oh, Jim, I'm sure you saw this, but don't forget to ask Rick about the Indiana football wanting to cancel the series with Louisville.
I didn't see that.
Oh, yeah. Well, over the weekend, they've asked Louisville about getting out of the series.
Very smartly, because Jeff Brahma kicked their butt. And
now they'll have to play this year's game, correct, Rick?
That's my sense, that it's too late in the process to find opponents for this year for Louisville. Plus, Louisville wants Indiana to pay them $1 million for every game that they get out of, and Indiana doesn't want to pay anything.
Hey, all you can do is ask, right?
That's correct. That's correct. I'm coming up tomorrow, though.
You are?
For the women's game.
Really? Holy cow.
Grace Berger's first home game since the injury. They're playing a top 10 team.
How about that? When we were in the press room after the North. I'll talk about
it. You're good. You can finish your thought. I just want to
I'll do it on. I'll do it on air.
Okay.
Metalworks Brewing Company is the culmination of a passion for beer, food, and custom metal art. Check out their custom growlers. Metalworks Brewing Company has an updated menu, new brews, and will be offered in all Endeavor Hospitality restaurants. Come taste what Dr. Hops is brewing. Metalworks Brewing Company. Bring your passion and your thirst.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you on this Wednesday. And now we're joined by the Hall of Famer, Rick Bozich from WDRB.com. Rick, how are you, sir?
Good, Jim. How are you?
Great. Lots of stuff to get to, especially that you've been covering. First of all, the Bermuda Triangle of basketball, Louisville, Kentucky, and Indiana has looked like they have all entered the Bermuda Triangle this season.
I as the column I wrote began, this does not compute. We both remember a day when it was even laughable to suggest any of the three would miss the NCAA tournament. That wasn't going to happen. They were going to be in the NCAA tournament. A couple of them were going to get to the Sweet 16, and one would probably get to the Elite Eight or Final Four. We are looking at a season where Louisville's not going to go to the NCAA tournament. Kentucky is, last time I saw something last night, somebody posted they were the last one in or something. And Indiana's trending in the wrong direction. So I don't know what to say anymore.
Yeah. Louisville.
It's not facilities, it's not funding, it's not fan interest, but it ain't working.
Well, with Calipari, I said 2 years ago, I said this would be his last year, but I thought it was for something. I said because the one and done era is over and he cannot no longer one and done people, which he is always just out talented. He did not out coach people. Well, now that has been equalized. But Indiana, in the same way, they have a little bit better talent this year, but are not doing as well. And yeah, injuries are part of that, but it was not going well before that. So, and it's trend, and this was not trending upwards, either of them. You've got a long-standing coach with John Calipari, which there's always the beginning of an end for something. Everything ends. Mike Woodson, on the other hand, only season and a half in. But in this day and age, you just don't get that grace period anymore, Rick. It's too easy to turn a basketball program around with the portal and NIL money.
Yeah, I mean, you have fans that look around at Iowa State, second-year coach in. They just kicked another team's butt last night. They're in the top 15. You look at Kansas State. They had some big wins. They were up to number 11 in the poll. You look at Shrewsbury's made some strides real quick in 2 years at Penn State. And, I agree with what you're saying. Indiana, the Rutgers loss was on the board there before anybody got hurt. They got outworked and out determined and out toughed in that game. Then they come out against Arizona, and Xavier played in that game, and they were a notch below Arizona. They were, and then they go into Kansas, and Xavier gets hurt. And they got run out of the gym, and they've come back. I don't care who's out when you're up 21 points at Iowa. You got to win that game. It was too reminiscent of the game they lost last year against Wisconsin. You got to find.
Except they were not nearly as talented as that Wisconsin team was.
Right. You got to find a way with the veteran dudes you have that you win that game. And then the Northwestern game, I don't even know what to say about that. You can't. So I mean, yeah, it's losing Xavier Johnson's a big deal for this team. He was their pit bull on defense. He was the guy most likely to bring it on defense every night and get other guys to bring it too. He was competitive. He is about winning. And with him gone, the defense has taken a step back. But man, somebody pointed this out and I checked it out. It was true. In the last 4 games they've lost, they've given up at least 40 points in every half of those games. That's not going to get it done. And, we're at the point now where, Mike Woodson's, just like Calipari always says, they're not robots, and we're everybody's Super Bowl. Mike Woodson's trademark line is, "We've got to find a way to get these guys over the hump." It's like, yeah, we all know you got to get them over the hump. How are you going to get them over the hump, or when are you going to get them over the hump?
Yeah, that the constant. Well, there's starting to be some excuse making, and that never goes over well. And there's never been specific answers of, okay, why has Trace Jackson Davis not improved? Why did he not get a little bit better as far as, and I was talking earlier, one of the things that aggravates me is at the end of their warmups, every home game, maybe road too, I think.
They shoot those 3-point shots.
And I'm like, you know what? Maybe spend that time shooting a 12-foot jumper right up until you have to go into the locker room. Because I don't think anybody needs you hitting a half-court shot, but they damn sure could use you hitting a 12-foot jump shot throughout the game. 10-foot jump shot, 8-foot jump shot. That shows me that they're not locked in.
The TikTok videos aren't quite so funny when you're losing games.
See, luckily for me, I'm not on TikTok, so
I'm not either. But I just heard about what was going on. It's like instead of spending so much time worrying about doing TikTok videos, Miller Cop, spend some time on staying in front of your guy.
Yeah, it's the truth, though.
You get blown by 3 or 4 or 5 times every game.
It is the absolute truth. I don't think these guys are focused and locked in, and they don't have enough talent and enough coaching apparently to get them locked in. So I don't know what it's going to take for this team to change, but until things change, this is what you're going to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I agree in terms of this is other teams have players too. Other teams have determination and coaching too. And if you're going to come out there and think you're good enough just to beat people with 8 minutes of really hard effort or 14 minutes of really hard effort, it's not going to happen. It's really not going to happen. We've already seen it. I mean, Iowa is a team you should beat, and Northwestern is a team you've got to beat at home. And I don't know, man. I watch it and I just said, I don't get it.
Well, here's a great question Forrest posed, because it was actually a question I asked Trace Jackson Davis in the post game. I specifically, Coach talked about working harder, or that you all have to work harder. And I asked Trace, what is it specifically that you all need to work harder on? And part of his answer was that they had a great game plan. They didn't follow it. And I would have loved to have answered the follow-up. Why? Why are you not following the game plan if it's a good game plan? Why are you all not doing what you're supposed to do? Those are the answers to the questions that will change things. But until those are answered or addressed, nothing's going to change.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it's some of the old. I mean, Indiana fans have been around long enough that they always default to the old Coach Knight axiom of, if you're not doing the job, then sit your butt on the bench and let somebody else play. And I think if it continues tonight, then you need to see, put Logan Duncombe in the game, see what he can do. Put Anthony Leal in the game, see what he can do. Put Caleb Banks in the game, see what he can do. If they can, and tell him, you're in there to play defense. You're in there to stop your man. And that the inability to defend straight line drives against Northwestern was really, that's basic basketball. You've got to be able to stay between your man and the basket and not get beat. But they couldn't handle Boo Buie, and they couldn't handle Chase Audige. We've seen those guys from Northwestern do this to Indiana 3 years in a row. I mean, hasn't Northwestern beat Indiana at least once 3 years in a row?
I think so.
The last two were at Evanston. Last year it was the suspension game, and I'm pretty sure they beat him when Archie was there. So, I mean, and Chase Audige, it was 2 years ago. That was the first time I heard of the guy. They can't guard a guy who's, he's maybe a slightly above average Big Ten guard. He's not an All-American. He's not a pro.
And I don't understand. There's no way that Indiana should not be more athletic than Northwestern. I did not say that they were not athletic earlier, but they're not. Those guys are smarter than they are athletic. Maybe that's helping them on the floor because they got 24 points off of Indiana turnovers, which is an astounding number. I've never even seen that number, I don't think.
Oh, I've seen it all year at Louisville. So Louisville had 21 turnovers the other night against Syracuse. But no, you're right. I mean, that, and I see Chris has in the chat, wonder if AU ball has something to play into it. I think that does have something to play into, losing. Yeah, we got another game, or we're in the next tournament next week or whatever. And I also think they don't value possessions as much. The game has changed from, I think, the way coaches coached it a number of years ago, where if you made a turnover, it was a really big deal. These days, people turn it off. Too many guys too trying to make, every basket's worth 2 points or 3 points. I don't care if you dunk it. I don't care if you jump over two guys. I don't care if you threw a pass that was, a 70-foot bounce pass in between two defenders. if a guy lays it in, it counts 2 points, not two. You don't get extra bonus points because it was a highlight play. And you got too many guys trying to hit home run plays instead of just, give me the singles and doubles.
Yeah, and look, you mentioned Logan Duncombe. That's a kid that if he doesn't start playing, he won't be here next year. I can tell you that. There's no way. You bring in Malik Renew, who in the beginning of the year looked awesome, was playing like the hype and hit Big Ten season, and he's kind of hit this wall that he's not gotten past he's too slow for right now. He gets in foul trouble. And Logan Duncombe, and I brought this up yesterday, and whether they were similar positions or not, he played against Caleb First, throughout AAU and pretty much dominated him all the time. Yet Caleb First is starting at Purdue, and Duncombe cannot find the floor. I can't imagine there's that much of a disparity when we're talking about a team that's number one in the Big Ten and was number one in the country for a few weeks. There can't be that much disparity.
I guess the reason would be for that is that Trace Jackson Davis really has to play the 5, and that's what Duncombe plays. You got to find a way. Can you play can you come up with an offensive system where you can basically play 2-5 guys who both have to be around the basket? I think they've been trying to get away from that. But, the flip side of that is Malik Renew basically has to play the 5 too, because most of the baskets I've seen him score is him getting the ball in the low block, and he has those spin moves and the duck in, up and under, and scores. And as he's gotten scouted in the Big Ten, everybody knows he's almost essentially all left-handed, which way he's going to go with the ball, and they take it away from him, and he's gotten frustrated at times and turned the ball over. So I don't know. I just think if you have games like you have against Northwestern where you fall behind by 17 points because dudes aren't defending, it was a 34-17, right, at one point? Give somebody else a chance. I mean, have somebody sit for a while and say, hey, if that's the effort you're going to give in terms of defensively and or being serious about taking care of the ball, then you can sit and watch for a while.
I agree. Let's see. Tonight, Indiana is in. Luckily, they flew yesterday, so they will get to play their game tonight against Penn State. I don't know if that's going to be lucky for Indiana or not, because Penn State, Shrewsbury's got them playing well. They're going to smell blood in the water. They have always given Indiana a tough time there regardless. And so this is another must-win game for Indiana. Otherwise, they go to 1-4 in the Big Ten.
Right. I mean, Illinois bounced back last night. They were down there at 1-3 with Indiana, and they went on the road and won impressively at Nebraska. And they've had a lot of turmoil in their program with guys getting mad at Underwood, and Sky Clark, their 5-star recruit guard, announced over the weekend he was leaving. So, this is the time of the year where you need to sort of figure it out and get it back together and show the desperation that Iowa showed against Indiana. Indiana needs to go into Penn State and show the kind of desperation that they've seen from other teams this year, and not get, the thing that's consistently shows up is when they play teams that are physical, they get out physicaled, I think. I mean, Rutgers has done it consistently. Penn State's going to try and do it. And Indiana has to show that, no, that's not going to happen. So we'll see.
Let's see. And last question on this: if they lose this game,
right,
where's Indiana? How much trouble are they in?
I haven't looked at I mean, they're treading. I mean, they were at one point early on a 2 or 3 seed. They're down now, what, 8 or 9?
Yeah, they continue to fall like a rock.
They're going to be a bubble team. I mean, if they lose this game and if they lose it at home against the Wisconsin Saturday, I mean, they're absolutely a bubble team. And
I agree.
It's just going to get harder. I mean, I don't even know what they have next week, but they got to play Purdue twice. They got to play Michigan twice, I think. Ohio State's coming up. I mean, I don't know. They need to turn it around. They got to win one of these 2 games this week. They have to.
Absolutely. On the other side of the coin, the women's program are flying high. They are a top 4 team. They are looking more and more solidly like a number 1 seed, which that's going to take a while to play out. But they are appearing to be the class of the Big Ten right now, which that is a job in and of itself, usurping Maryland and Iowa. And Maryland is a team they play tonight. You mentioned that tomorrow night you're going to come up for that game, which that shows you how big that is, people. Rick Bozich is coming to an Indiana women's game. He's driving to come to a women's game. And I'm not making fun. I'm serious.
No.
That shows the respect of that program, but also for Grace Berger, who is from Louisville. But we were in the press room after the Indiana lost to Northwestern, and someone said, "Hey, Grace Berger's in the starting lineup." I'm like, "Oh, baloney. It's, that's from whatever." And pulled up the stats line, and damn, she was in it. I'm like, wow. And not only did she played 27 minutes and scored 16 points. And I'm like, that's amazing to see someone come back from that kind of injury and have that kind of impact on a team this good. And the fact that they were able to seamlessly bring her in. I was talking to Megan, their SID Monday night, and I'm like, that amazed me as much as anything.
Yeah, I mean, Grace Berger's on the Mount Rushmore of Indiana women's basketball players of all time. Mackenzie Holmes will be too. She's helped change the program from an average Big Ten program to a good Big Ten program to one of the best Big Ten programs. And when she got hurt in Las Vegas in late November, it was at a collision with a player from Auburn. Initially, there were reports that she was done for the year, and then it got better and better, and she's kind of beat the timetable to come back. And you mentioned she played at Northwestern on Sunday and played well, and now they're playing. Maryland just moved into the top 10 this week. They're number 9 in the ratings. They've got maybe the best player in the league, and her name is Diamond Miller. I expect it'll be a bit. They had 7,000, I think, for their last home game. I think it'll be a big crowd tomorrow night, and it should be. I mean, as you mentioned, this women's team is good. I mean, their only loss was to Michigan State on the road. That was without Berger, and they got good players at every position. Mackenzie Holmes is one of the best centers in the country. Grace Berger, Yarden Garzon, the freshman from Israel, is one of the best freshmen in the country. Chloe Moore McNeil is really good at guard. They've got Sydney
Sarah
Curry.
Scalia.
Yeah.
I mean, that girl can shoot. I mean, I think she won the 3-point shooting contest this year with whomever she was paired with against with her.
And the thing is, you watch them play, they're fundamentally sound. I mean, the women's game is different than the men's game, is it's played below the rim instead of above the rim. And so passing the ball and cutting and all that stuff is of more value. It's fun to watch.
It really is.
And they shoot the ball well, and there aren't usually as many turnovers. And so I'm looking forward to come up there. And I think Grace Berger's got a great story to tell, because she's a player who almost had her super senior season taken away from her. I think at times she thought it was gone, and now it's back. And all of the goals and all of the aspirations she had back in November are now been given back to her. So I'm looking forward to being up there. Are you going to come out?
Yes, sir. I will be out there.
All right.
How did she get away from Jeff Waltz? Jeff Waltz is Louisville's women's basketball head coach, who they have had uber success. They have been to 3 Final Fours, played in championship games, been just one of the top women's programs in the country. And I know they went very national recruiting wise. Did she get missed because of that, right there being from Louisville?
No, they recruited her, and she grew up going to some Louisville games, and I think she was interested in Louisville, but I think Terry Morin and her staff just did a great job prioritizing Grace Berger. I think the academic element played a big deal. I think her mother, Grace Berger's mother, is from New Albany. I'm pretty sure she went to Providence High School, so she had some Hoosier fans in her family tree. And so that all those things kind of her dream school, I think, was actually UConn. I did a story on her last March, and her dad told me that Gino, I think somebody from Connecticut, it might have been Gino, came to watch her play once, and she didn't have a very good game. But that Indiana just did a really good job of recruiting her. And I think you're right. I think, Jeff Walls at that time was doing a lot of national stuff in terms of recruiting, so she might not have been as high a priority, but that's part of the whole story. There is a Hoosier element in the family tree, though. Her mother is from New Albany.
Now that you say that, I'm like thinking back. Oh, I know some Bergers that went to Providence.
That's her dad's name. Her mom. Her mom's might have a Zeller or something. I'm not sure. I'm going to check that out tomorrow.
Yeah, I have to find out. That's very cool to find out. But thankfully for Indiana that she chose the Hoosiers, because, like you said, she is not only on the Mount Rushmore, but And looking at the success that like a Louisville type team has had, where is this Indiana team right now compared to some of them? I like I said, I know they're a top 4 team. Can this team win a national championship?
I don't know about winning a national championship because South Carolina is just ridiculously talented. They've got 3 or 4 starters back from the team that won it all last year, and they had the best player in the country in Aaliyah Boston, who's pretty much unguardable. So I think South Carolina is clearly the best team in college hoops. We'll see. I mean, Maryland's going to be a really good test for them. Maryland's got 2 of the best players in the Big Ten. And I don't know, were you at the game last year when Indiana played Princeton in the NCAA tournament? Princeton's best player last year, Abby Myers, who's like a shooter, transferred. She's on Maryland's team now. So they got Princeton's best player last year. They have a really good freshman. They got a transfer from Florida. It'll be a challenge for Indiana tomorrow night. That should be a really good game.
Looking forward to that. What is up next for you besides coming up to check out the women's team tomorrow night?
Well, tonight I'll be watching IU, and then Louisville's still trying to get that first ACC win at Clemson, which, how about this? Who's the only unbeaten team in the ACC? Clemson. Just like everybody predicted.
Crazy.
Like nobody predicted. They were picked 10th in the preseason media poll in the ACC, 1 spot ahead of Louisville. They're 5-0 in the league. Then Saturday, North Carolina comes in here off a loss to Virginia to play Louisville. Louisville is
without Armando Bacot, maybe.
Yeah, he's hurt. I keep saying this every week. Louisville's getting better. They are getting better. They're just not getting any wins. So 2-14 Louisville tonight against Clemson, and the Hoosiers against Penn State. Is Indiana an underdog tonight?
They are. I think 1.5 is what I saw.
Wow.
So,
they got one. Jalen Pickett in a lot of the metrics. Jalen Pickett, Penn State's guard, he's considered, I think, right behind Zach Edey, is the second most valuable player in the Big Ten.
Fred mentioned Funk and Pickett will have big games tonight against Indiana. We'll find out because they have not been playing good enough defense.
I mean, Hood Schifino's done well on offense. Trace Jackson Davis is doing his thing. Bates has gotten better, but some of these other dudes, whether it's Galloway, Geronimo, Renault, Kopp, they need to pick it up, man. They need to pick it up, and they need to pick it up real quick.
You ain't lying. He's the great one, Rick Bozich. Appreciate you. And if you see Bob Kravitz, he's now the Indiana Sports Writer of the Year.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so
throwing that out there.
Absolutely. Rick Bozich, the Hall of Famer, joining us from WDRB.com. Make sure you give him a follow for complete coverage of all things that are fun in sports. We've got more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
I know it's not the biggest deal, but you didn't ask him about the football thing.
Well, and I meant to. Damn it. But
I tried texting you to remind you, but I think it was too late.
Well, but
if nothing changes with that next week,
people would rather hear about basketball.
Well, yeah, but I'm not saying it's not that you didn't cover basketball.
I know. I agree with you. I meant to ask, but that's one it doesn't. It'll aggravate me that I didn't get that question in, but
it's fine.
I know, but it still aggravates me. No, and it's kind of funny. Louisville's got all the leverage in that situation.
I mean, it's just a terrible situation because I mean you're literally playing a coach that beat your ass the past 3 years.
What's that matter? I don't think it has anything to do with the coach.
I'm just saying they have a leg up, even though they're already probably a better team than Indiana. They also have a leg up over the fact that he's been studying Indiana for however many years he was at Purdue.
Yeah, there's that. You're not lying. He ain't lying. You don't know where that's from either, do you?
Nope.
That is, oh brother, where art thou?
Gotcha.
He ain't lying. The little short person with the broom up on the. We're gonna sweep this state clean. He ain't lying. Oh, lordy.
We have about 10 minutes left in our final segment.
Toddcast. Do you have the banner for the Toddcast?
I have the one that's yes. Hold on, let me pull it up. I'll just show you what I have.
Yes, let's see it.
I haven't made any changes since we last talked with it, but I have the one that we. Let me see. I've got it right here. I'm uploading it right now. You'll see in a second. Here you go.
Yeah, the state needs to be red, or the same color as the Indiana basketball Toddcast.
Yeah, I'll see if I can get that crimson, and then that'll be. I know you said there needs to be color on the clipboard, but I think it looks good with the crimson and the black.
It does, but it can't be. It's not balanced. Todd's picture.
It is
Todd's
balanced,
picture.
though. I mean,
well, it's not. You've got.
It may
color.
look like a little bit just because of the way it's not perfectly balanced.
By balanced, I mean you've got color. No color,
okay.
no
I thought you
color.
meant something else.
No.
It just sucks that Todd's picture is black and white.
Well, he doesn't need to be black and white. I sent you one that's not.
That one doesn't look good in the bubble though. All right, here we go.
There's
At 2-star prices, Southern Stone Restaurant is part of Endeavor Hospitality's Wow Club.
This segment is brought to you by Courtroom Sports Grill in Bedford. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. It is Wednesday. It's also game day for Indiana basketball, as tonight they are in State College, Pennsylvania, to take on the Penn State Nittany Lions. And thank goodness they flew yesterday because of a nationwide aerial shutdown. Now, how do they get home tomorrow? There's a question that I thought about because of Rick Bozich bringing that up, but I'm like, so you think and hope that they can get the flight thing figured out by tomorrow. Otherwise, the boys will be taking a long bus ride from State College to here. That's a 10-hour drive, man. So hopefully they get that straightened out. We'll find out. Tonight, Indiana taking on Penn State. That game is at 7. I believe on, is that BTN? John Boy? I don't have the...
Does the Google machine not know?
Well, I've got so many daggone windows open.
I think it is on Big Ten Network, if I remember correctly. Let's see what we got here. Well, it's definitely Indiana's games on the ESPN family of networks is running short, as you know.
Oh, I know what you mean. Oh, that has nothing to do with this year, though.
Oh, I know. I'm just filling time. Yes, it's on BTN. When they take on Wisconsin, they'll be on CBS, and they'll be. Yeah,
that's a Saturday home game, but tonight is a BTN game at 7. Game starts at 7 o'clock at the Bryce Jordan Center. Purdue is now this is showing a 2-point favorite. Purdue, Penn State rather. Got the P's coming out. So this is this is a game that Indiana, they're going to have to come out and show some fight, because I promise you Penn State's going to fight. This should be a more difficult game than the Northwestern game was. Northwestern was at home, and I don't think that they're as good. Or they're probably, Penn State and them are right along each other. But at 1-4, that's going to drop. Indiana dropped 7 spots in the net rankings last week. Or after the last one. And so if they lose their 3rd straight game, they're in danger of heading straight to the bubble. And for a team that looked to be definitively into the tournament, like Rick said, they are dangerously heading towards bubble land early in the season. And least last year they were fighting toward that. This year it's like they're just slowly going down, and someone has got to regain control of this plane. It's not crash landing. It's not in a nosedive, but it is a downward trajectory that only has so long before you hit the ground. Someone has got to take control of this plane, get the nose up, and make it fly. That's leadership. That's something else they've lost with Xavier Johnson not being in there. They lost their best on-ball defender, and they lost their best leader. And yeah, I know that can sound funny saying after some of the things that he did in the past, but the truth of the matter is he was Indiana's best leader. What does that say about Indiana? I don't know. Maybe that says something else. It does say to me that why Trace Jackson Davis is not the out and out unequivocal leader of this team. I have no idea. Race Thompson, the same, even injured or not. You can lead from wherever. Someone mentioned a great game to watch if Indiana's a blowout tonight, Arkansas and Alabama. Not only is that a great game, that's a perfect example of two up-and-coming coaches who were coaching their butts off. Nate Oates at Alabama and Eric Musselman at Arkansas. Look what they've done with those programs. Alabama is not a basketball program, but Nate Oates has done exactly what he did at Buffalo. Eric Musselman is doing at Arkansas what hasn't been there for a long time. He's got a great assistant with him named Keith Smart. But those games are fun to watch. They're fun college games to watch. And I'll be honest with you, unless, of course, nothing is fun to watch, whether you're covering a team or a fan of a team. It's a lot more fun when they win. It's easier to write stories. It's easier to cover it. It's easier to deal with the fans. The conversations are better because they're more positive. Trust me, I don't have a dog in the fight other than I would much prefer to see Indiana win because it makes the shows more fun. It makes people in better moods. It makes more fans come out. So believe me, I don't want them to lose. But while that's happening, not me, but just me, but the guests that we have on, that's what they do. That's what they have done for a long time. Cover these things, talk about these things. And there are issues. And when there are issues, you can't ignore them. But how about congratulations to the women's team, man? Now, that's a game that Indiana women need to win as well. And I don't mean from a pressure standpoint, but when you're the big dog or you want to be the big dog, and that's what Indiana is trying to be this year in the Big Ten, the women's team, the big dog, not alongside Maryland, not alongside Iowa, but the big dog. And you've got to earn that. Not to use stupid analogies, but you got to take that bone away from those other dogs, man. You've got to take it away from Caitlin Clark in Iowa and establish your dominance. No one has a team like Indiana women's team from a starting lineup perspective. No one in the Big Ten. They are as solid as a rock. Still have to win. And tomorrow night will be a good test of that. Looking forward to that. Yeah, I'll go out there and see Rick out there. Looking forward to that game. And good luck. And Grace Berger, man, again, I'm shocked at not only her first game back, she played 27 stinking minutes, 16 points, and the team was very, very fluid. So looking forward to that. Don't forget, tonight is the inaugural Toddcast. We'll be sending the information out during the day, so you'll be able to follow that and watch along with Todd Leary as he talks about what's going on. Instead of waiting till afterwards, talk about it live as it happens. That should be a lot more fun. You'll have to watch provide your own television or sound if you're listening to Don. Either way, but look forward to you guys joining Todd for that tonight. Thanks a lot for everybody today. Congratulations again to Bob Kravitz, the Indiana Sports Writer of the Year. Thanks to Kyle Neddenriep from the Indy Star and the Hall of Famer Rick Bozich. As always, appreciate John, the producer, for keeping us between the white lines. Most importantly, you guys. Without you all, we have no reason to be here, and couldn't be any happier that you guys show up each and every day. Appreciate you all so much. And until tonight, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.